Good morning. Welcome to the kitchen table. I'm getting my laptop going for the streaming services on Apple and Spotify. So I want to welcome everybody to the show. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd. Welcome to the kitchen table. If you've been following the show, thank you so much. I say it every week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love and appreciate the support from everyone, family, friends, and anyone new that I don't know that I have met through this journey. I really, really appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of good feedback. People are saying it's helping them. People are loving it. Certain episodes are like, oh, that one resonated with me. So I really cannot thank you guys enough for the support. If you haven't already, head on over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the channel, hit the bell, share it, share it, share it, share it. Sharing it is the most important thing. If you are on YouTube, you can listen to it on Apple or Spotify. And Amazon too, but nobody seems to be listening to it on Amazon. Anyway, if you're in the car, if you're out for a run, for a walk, you can go over to those platforms and listen to it as well. It's all free, not getting paid. There's no advertisements, nothing. So check it out. Thank you guys so much. If you are new to the kitchen table, welcome. This is a channel spreading mental health awareness. I talk about the first responder community because that is my background. I was military, law enforcement, fire department, all combined for close to about 30 years or so. I've had mental health issues in the past. I'm trying to open myself up, put myself out there to let everybody know that everybody has these kind of issues, and these are the problems that I've had and what I do to get over them through my experiences, through my stories, how I deal with it, how I've dealt with it, how I'm going to deal with it. But everything is good. So I just want to say, if you are new to the kitchen table, welcome. It doesn't matter if you're a first responder or a civilian. Everyone has a seat. There's always a seat at my kitchen table. There'll always be a plate for you with some food, with some good talk, with some good stories at my kitchen table. So I want to thank everybody. And you guys, if you're new, make sure you like the channel, subscribe, head on over to YouTube. Like it there, subscribe there, follow, whatever. But most importantly, share it. We need to share and get the word out, because the stigma of mental health is people don't want to talk about it. People like to not say anything. Men, especially, don't want to look weak and admitting that they have some sort of sadness or depression or anxiety or fear, or there was an incident in their lives or recently, or something that they see or have done at work that's bothering them mentally, that they can't sleep, or using alcohol as a coping mechanism, maybe being nasty to your family or just the general public and getting angry. It's a byproduct of mental health issues, is anger, stress. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a weak person to admit that you've had these issues or have them. It makes you a stronger person for admitting it and wanting to get the help so you can be present for your family. When you're going through these mental health struggles, you are not present for your family. You're not focused on your family. You're not focused on your profession. You're not focused on nutrition and fitness or any of that stuff. All you can think about is your problems, and you're not present at all. That weakens your mind. That weakens your body. You, if you're having these problems, when you admit them and you deal with them and you get help for them, it makes you stronger. Because you can put those problems, deal with them, get help, fix them, and it can make you stronger. It can make you a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better employee, fireman, cop, civilian, accountant, whatever the fuck it is that you do. Dealing with these problems, getting the help that you need will make you stronger. All right? That's just what I wanted to say. I always had the stigma before I started admitting this stuff and all the shit that I've gone through, not saying anything and just dealing with it and treating people like shit and wallowing in my own sorrow and drinking too much and not getting the proper sleep and exercise and help and nutrition that I needed that helps me so much. I always wanted to keep my fucking mouth shut because I'm surrounded by a bunch of alpha males in first responders. That's how men look at themselves. You know, whatever. You want to call yourself an alpha male, you're a fucking alpha male. I'm just a regular guy. Whatever. But when you're surrounded by people that put their lives on the line all the time, one thing that's really not fucking discussed or talked about is your mental health. So I'm trying to bring it to light. I'm trying to let everybody know that no matter what profession you're in, fire department, police, EMS, dispatchers, they deal with a lot of stress. Nurses, doctors who see death every day. It's okay to talk about your problems. And one of the ways, if you're having issues, one of the ways that I've been seeing a lot of lately, and I don't know exactly when it came out, but a couple of years ago, I started seeing this number 988. And I was just on the website, 988lifeline.org. And this is a number that you can call if you're having trouble, if you're suicidal, if you're depressed. You can call that number and get help just by talking to somebody. They have grief counselors, or they have counselors standing by 24/7 to talk to. You give them a call. You'll get an automated message to direct you where you want to go. You'll hear a little bit of music, is what it says, and then it'll connect you with a counselor, with somebody to talk to that can help you, guide you in the right direction, get you help that you need. So call 988. That's the number to call if you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, if you want to harm yourself, if you want to harm others because of your mental health issues. 988. The website is 988lifeline.org. They're there to help. It's completely confidential. Give it a shot. Be there for your family. Be there for your friends. Be an adult. Be a man or a woman. Be mature. Step up. Get the help that you need because people love you. People count on you. You have responsibilities. Take accountability for your actions. Make a promise to yourself about getting help and be accountable for that and get the help that you need. You're wanted here. People want you here. Just think of what it will do to your family or friends or your children if you took your own life. Nobody wants to think about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. But don't do it. 988 or 988lifeline.org. Check it out. So, May, we're April 23rd. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't know if you guys know that. So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I guess you can start seeing all sorts of stuff about mental health awareness. There's so many websites, so many journalism type things to talk about it, to bring it to light, to get you help that you need. All sorts of stuff. May, Mental Health Awareness Month. It's next week. But today, we're still in April. And I have, including this episode, 4 left. 4 left to end of season 1. I can't believe it. I'll have 25 episodes. The end of season 1. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to reevaluate stuff. I'm going to maybe get some interviews lined up, hopefully get the time to do those interviews, edit everything, and then get it out there for good content for you guys. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to just do interviews anymore. I'm not going to just do solo things because, I've told you guys I have a job. I work every single day. The only time I can really do weekends right now, interviews, is on the weekends. So it's a little difficult for me, but I have one interview, the number one interview that I wanted to start on this weekend. I'm going to the firehouse on Saturday. I'm going to speak to Brian Quinn. He's going to finish off season 1 of The Kitchen Table. I can't think of a better way to finish season 1 off than being at the firehouse, being at the original kitchen table where it all started with a man who's going down in history for a roof rope rescue. Jumped out of the 16th floor, on the 16th floor, hanging out a window, high-rise building, middle of the day, thousands of people watching. Brian Quinn, I cannot think of a better way to finish off the season. He's a friend of mine, 30 truck guy. I'm so excited. I just spoke to him. And he's up for it. Everything is great. We are going to have a good time. Listen, this is still raw. I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to edit. I'm still learning. I'm actually experimenting with a new app because I have the three iPhones, iPhone 14 Pros, so they're my 3 cameras. I got my laptop with a microphone. I have a wireless microphone. I don't even know how it fucking sounds right now. But I'm still experimenting. And my biggest thing was transparency and openness and honesty in this format, in this podcast. And I'm trying not to edit too much because I want to show you guys who I am. I want to show you guys who my guests are going to be and who they are. And we talk about their childhood and what inspired them to do things. And then the incident that he was involved in and the aftermath, all sorts of stuff. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be my first interview. I've never interviewed anybody before. I tried getting something set up with my son earlier on just to kind of have a practice one, but it fell through. It didn't work out, but that's okay. It's all good. it's going to be my first one. It maybe he even said, he goes, maybe it's a little clunky. Yeah, who knows? It's going to be raw, open, honest, and organic. And we'll see what happens. I've prepared some questions for it, but who knows? Who knows if I'm how we do. So also, and we're going to talk about his medal at Medal Day from the roof rope rescue. But that's going to be episode 25. That's going to be the season ender of the kitchen table. But the episode before, episode 24, I think I told you guys already, if you've been listening, I am going to go over the role that I played in that whole incident, that whole roof rope rescue. It was the middle of the day. I was the first due engine company chauffeur. We're literally across the street from the high rise. So this way, I could tell you my story just to kind of lead up to Brian's story, which is he's the one that went over. He's the one that fucking made the rescue. I wasn't an anchor man. I wasn't even in the building. I was just the first due engine company chauffeur. I had to get water to the building. And just to kind of go over my role, what I did, how I was feeling, what I was seeing, the radio transmissions, all that stuff. This way, when it comes time to interview Brian, I don't take anything away from him. The last thing I want to do in any interview is talk over somebody, talk too much, or make it about me. This is not about me. This is about, number one, the show is about mental health awareness. And it's for everybody or anybody who had problems. But number two, when I start interviewing people, I want it to be about them. It has to be about them. I have a tendency to fucking talk a little too much, and this will be 24 episodes. The episode before that, it's just me talking. I haven't actually sat down and interviewed anybody. So if I get out what I have to say about that incident to lead up to that one, it will be great. So I could just sit back, ask some questions, listen, and let him tell his story, which is a great one. You guys are going to love it. I usually like to get into a first responder story. I've been telling a lot of fire stories. I've told some U.S. Park Police stories when I was on that job with the suicide at the Statue of Liberty, the accident that I was in the academy. But what I want to talk about today, what I don't really talk about too much because it was such a kind of like a blip on my radar in my life, was being a Federal Air Marshal. It's a pretty wild job. Everybody thinks, oh, wow, you were an air marshal. You're like, what the fuck was that like? Like, that's so cool. You were like undercover and carried a gun on a plane. Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was pretty cool. I only did it for about 1 year and 3 months or so. But I want to get into that story real quick. Hopefully it's interesting to you guys, give you a little insight about that life and that job and what it's like. So I was a United States Park Police officer when 9/11 happened. 9/11 obviously happened in September 11th, 2001. Still a park policeman, and it affected me greatly, just like it did everybody else who was involved, everybody else in this country. Horrible, horrible time. Fucking the murder of 3,000 people by fucking terrorists. Horrible. So 9/11 happens. They flew planes into World Trade Center. At that time, there were only 50 active Federal Air Marshals, I believe, was about the number, 50. They had built up the program back in the 70s and 80s when all these planes were getting hijacked and taken to like fucking Iran and Greece and all these other places. So they started building up the program. But nothing happened for so many years that, just like typical government type stuff, they're going to start downsizing the program because nothing's happening. They're like, we don't need fucking air marshals anymore. I'm not saying that would have prevented that attack because, it's almost impossible. It is impossible to get air marshals on every single flight that departs from the United States every single day. There's approximately 35,000 to 40,000, give or take, departures in the continental United States. Think about that, 40,000 every single day. You would need minimum to cover those flights, 80,000 people, because you never flew alone. I never flew alone. And you always fly with at least one other guy. Sometimes when you go overseas, they fly with more guys, depends or not. You would need the minimum 80,000 people. And now you got to think about shifts and vacations and people getting sick and all sorts of stuff. You would need another 80,000 people to cover them. Minimum 100. I would think minimum you need 160,000 air marshals to cover every single flight that departs in the continental United States. It's impossible. It's just impossible. And the standards are so high on the air marshals as far as firearms and integrity and your background and the training and all sorts of that stuff, your fitness. The standards are so high, there's no way that they're going to get 180,000 fucking people. You just can't. You can't. And that's just the number I'm spitballing here. So, but my experience is 9/11 happens, right? Horrible, horrible experience. I'm down there on the pile for about 8 days. I was just bucket brigades. I just passed the bucket back and forth. I did it on my own time. I did it on police time as well. But after a little while, number one, they started kicking everybody out that wasn't FDNY, NYPD, or Port Authority as far as like the first law enforcement. So anybody who's a different outside agency, they were kind of like kicking them out of there. So it took about 2 weeks to do that. But I went down there 10 times and I was physically on the pile 8 times. I kind of had, I kind of had enough anyway. I was shot. So I can't even imagine what the fire department guys were going through, what the police department guys and Port Authority guys were going through. And this is just me who was a United States Park policeman. I was in New York. I'm from New York. Horrible for me. Anyway, so do that. Then I get a foot post, which is a couple blocks away from 9/11 at Federal Hall. Federal Hall is where George Washington signed the Declaration of Independence. That is federally owned by the National Park Service. Never had a guard there before. They had park rangers who were just kind of interpretive rangers who they were like in the museum and stuff. After 9/11, they needed a law enforcement officer there on that property. So United States Park Police property designated to us. So I stood a foot post there for a couple months afterwards. I know for a fact I was there on Christmas because I went to the church Christmas Day to say a prayer. Anyway, after 9/11, because there were so few air marshals and because the country was afraid that it was going to happen again, they decided to open up the air marshal program again and hire basically anybody with law enforcement, military experience that they could. They just wanted to get someone with a gun who was trained as a cop or military out on a plane. They were hiring basically everybody. I wasn't anything special. Most of the guys that joined that job weren't anything special. They were just looking to change careers, help the country. That was my big thing. I knew I knew sooner or later I was going to get on the fire department. So it was kind of just killing time in the government anyway, after a certain time. So I just wanted to get on that job to feel like I was helping the country after a terrorist attack. Feel like I was doing something noble and good to protect our country. I'm an American. I was in the military. I love this country. I support our veterans. I support anybody who fights for this country. I support our law enforcement, all our first responders. I just wanted to do something to help the country, and I felt like I was. After a while, you kind of just like, I'm on this plane. It kind of sucks, whatever. But I'll get into that in a minute. But the beginning, if you passed a quick background check, passed the firearms test, passed a couple other things, you were up on a plane in like 2 weeks. It was crazy. You fill out the paperwork and you go down to Atlantic City and you go through this stuff for a week, paperwork, indoctrination, orientation, all sorts of stuff like that. You pass everything, you get the call, and then you get assigned to an office. I was initially assigned to JFK and LaGuardia in New York because I lived in Staten Island at the time. I since transferred to Newark about a month or two after I got assigned to New York because it was just a pain in the ass driving from Staten Island to fucking either JFK or LaGuardia. But anyway, your first week in the Air Marshals is training. You train down in Atlantic City. And everybody who trained you, who trained me, they were all like fucking former Navy SEALs, Delta Force guys, all real legitimate dudes. Like all guys that were in like Black Hawk fucking down shit. Like all these special forces guys and special operators were training. And I'm just a regular guy, a regular uniformed law enforcement cop, street cop. That's all I was. These guys were legit. And I'll never forget like one of the best feelings that I had because the firearms program is legit and you're training all sorts of stuff and they're just moving guys back and it's hectic. We were shooting and moving and I wasn't the greatest shot. I was never like fucking I couldn't shoot the eyeball out of an eagle, but I always passed. I always passed it. Sometimes I had trouble, sometimes not, but I always passed. There were guys that couldn't pass. There were guys that were so good that they were just unbelievable. But I remember this one guy, he was a SEAL. He was a Navy SEAL. And I told you guys in the past that I was a SEAL. I'm a SEAL fucking fanboy. I'm a SEAL buff. I know a couple of them guys. They're great dudes. And we were shooting and moving and doing this one evolution. And I had fucking, and they knew I had some, I was a little not great at fucking shooting, that I needed a little extra attention. And I'd fucking moved and I shot all the targets. Bang, 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 bang. And the guy fucking looked at me and he fucking just gave me a big thumbs up, man, like that. And I was so fucking happy because he was a SEAL. And he was like, yeah, man, see, you could do that shit. That was really cool. But anyway, the training was only a week because they wanted to get everybody out there on the planes. Then about a year or two into it, you would go to New Mexico for like another 6 weeks or so, which was the real training of the air marshals. They really get you involved in a lot more shooting. The shooting's harder and there's a lot more fucking techniques to do and this and that and the other thing. I never got to do that. Right before I was scheduled to start going overseas, number one, to Israel and London, like back and forth, and then go to New Mexico, I got on the fire department. So I never even did that. I did a week or so in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and then I was assigned to New York, JFK and LaGuardia Airport, which then I transferred to Newark. So I never got to go to New Mexico. But the guys that got to go to New Mexico, they started weeding out more guys. Your backgrounds were coming back fucked up. You couldn't get a top secret clearance. You weren't passing the shoot. And they really started scrutinizing more and more guys. They filled what they had to. They kept filling things. They were getting people on planes. And then they were weeding people out a year or two later. As far as I know, nowadays, it's probably so different. That was over 20 years ago. I don't know what it's like now, what the guys are doing, how many guys there are. I just don't know. But when I got to when I got to New York, JFK and LaGuardia, I was assigned with one other guy, and we walked into the office, and the guys were like, "Hey, the special agent in charge of the office was like, hey, what do you, he showed us around. He was like, hey, what do you think?" And it was a complete fucking disaster. It was a complete clusterfuck. They were rebuilding this organization basically from scratch with 50 guys. And the office was a mess. They were setting things up. There was nothing in there. There was guys all over the place. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew, like, flights. Flights were done with like fucking paper and pen. It was crazy. I was like, this is a fucking clusterfuck. They just got guys on planes. It was crazy. So, and I've told you in the past, if something was on my mind, I usually just said it right then and there. They all looked at me when I said it's clusterfuck. Like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean it's a clusterfuck? I go, well, look at it. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. Anyway, maybe not the greatest thing to say my first day in the Air Marshals, but whatever. I said it. It is what it is. So I start flying out of JFK and LaGuardia, and it was all we were doing, me and my partner at the time, all we were doing was shuttle flights back and forth to Boston and Washington, D.C. We were going to Boston. Yes. Was it Boston and Washington, D.C.? Yeah. One day we would do Boston all day long. Shuttle flights, Boston and back. They're like 30-minute flights. We do like 6 a day. There and back, there and back, there and back, there and back, all day long. 5 days a week. And then we would do Washington, D.C. DC, back and forth. Every day. Home every night. First month and a half. Home every night, back to work. One day we got it was horrible. Like we were catching fucking 4 a.m., 5 a.m. flights. And the last flights we were getting back at like 6 o'clock at night. It was awful. Like your body adjusting to flying, going up and down on that, it was brutal my first month. And at that time, I was in really good shape. Like young man, I was in fucking really, really good shape. I was like 27, 28 years old. So it really affected my body before it adjusted up and down on that plane all day long, every single day. So pilots and flight attendants, I don't know if they have to go through some sort of adjustment training before they start flying a lot, but it was fucking horrible. I was dehydrated. The food was terrible. You can't sleep. Obviously, you cannot sleep on the plane. But anyway, the first month sucked for me. I was like, this sucks. I'm just up and down. We're wearing civilian clothes, up and down on a plane all day long. And then when you're delayed all the fucking time. And 20 years ago, LaGuardia was a shithole. So we would delay it into LaGuardia all the time. I remember one day we did 17 hours, a 17-hour day. We were up in the last flight coming back because there was a storm over New York for like fucking 13 fucking hours. It was absolutely out of control. We flew and we landed at like 2 in the morning. And we were like, all right, hey, we gotta, what's the deal? We called our boss and he was like, oh, well, we gotta come back and catch the next flight. And it was like 5 o'clock in the fucking morning. We had like, we didn't even leave. I didn't even think I left. I just stayed at the airport and did another full day of flying. It was horrible. Anyway, after a while, I was like coming back and forth to New York. The special agent in charge of the New York field office at the time, I don't remember his name. Even if I did, I wouldn't say it. You had to have an office, right? You're supposed to have a little substation in the airport, but he set up an office up in fucking Armonk, New York. I mean, you couldn't get you might as well have gone to Albany. You couldn't get any further from the fucking airport than Armonk, New York. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, we were driving fucking 3 hours, 2 hours to get to this meeting place, like an office. Like, get out of here. Like, so I transferred. I transferred to Newark. The office was a lot closer. There was it was so close, so much closer to my house. So that's what I did. I wound up transferring to Newark, New Jersey. Flew out of Newark for about a year and a half. What you do on a plane is you're in civilian clothes. You let the fucking flight crew know that you're an air marshal. Sometimes they knew, sometimes they didn't, but you're supposed to let them know. You're supposed to brief them on what to do in case something happens. You sit everywhere on a plane. Sometimes you sit close to the flight deck and sometimes you don't. You can move, you can switch. You can't be so rigid. If you can't do your job from the middle of the plane or the back of the plane, then you shouldn't be on the job. You shouldn't be flying. But a lot of times you sat close to the flight deck because that was the main protocol, was to protect the flight deck from another 9/11 style of attack. So we'd fly for 2 weeks in civilian clothes. I did a lot of California flights. Fly to California, stay overnight, fly back. And I would just do that a lot. San Francisco, Oakland, fucking LA, San Diego, mostly California flights. I've gone all over the country. But what I really wanted to do was start going overseas, but I got on the fire department before that happened. But to be an air marshal, there's nothing to it. 2 weeks you would fly, and then 1 week we'd go into the office and train. We'd catch up on paperwork, we'd shoot, we'd fucking do some training stuff, like some fights and working out, shit like that. It was good. It was a nice little break. But again, there's 40,000 departures in the continental United States. It's impossible to fill every single one of them with at least 2 air marshals. Impossible. I don't even know how many there are. Thousands and thousands and thousands. They should be. The budget for that fucking is got to be astronomical, because I believe the airlines all get reimbursed from the government for taking up those seats that the air marshals take up, that they're not getting paid for, that somebody in the public isn't flying on. I don't know how many there are. I don't know where they sit. I don't know these days what they're wearing, and nor should I know, and nor should any of you know. But just know that back 20 years ago, it was civilian clothes. We were undercover, sitting wherever we could, or wherever was assigned to us, flying wherever we could. I don't know where they're flying now, or how many there are, or how many offices there are. But you can always spot another air marshal in the airport, or on, going somewhere in a different airport, or the one that you are at. You just saw those guys and girls. They were both girls and guys. But it was a really great experience. And it was a great experience for me because I felt like I was doing a service to the country. I felt like I was doing the right thing. And also, I was maturing so much in that time, that year and a half that I was on my own, that I had a lot of time to reflect on life. I had a lot of time to think about things. I had a lot of time to work on myself, being by myself, especially when I'd go Arizona, California. Me and my partner would kind of, sometimes we'd go our separate ways. Sometimes we'd stay in the same hotel, and maybe you'd fly with somebody different. Sometimes you'd fly to like LA and then fly out of LA a couple times. Guys have done that. Guys were doing Southeast Asia tours out of the Newark office. I don't know what's going on now. But that job I needed so bad, because I gained so much confidence. It was so great for my mental health that I could just work on myself every day and establish my routines and work out every day, eat right, do what I had to do. Once I settled in, I matured as a man. I told you that I had gone through a pretty bad breakup, heartbreaking, and I was a mess. But that time in the Air Marshals really, really helped me. I guess I needed that at that time. I guess it was meant to be. I was supposed to be an Air Marshal at that time. You know, again, still waiting for the fire department. The fire department kind of called me right as I got on the Air Marshals to start the background investigation and the process to getting on the fire department. So that took about a year or so. I should have been in the class before I was in, but the fucking investigator fucked up. Whatever. Anyway, this story is about being a Federal Air Marshal. Really cool job. Sitting on the plane for so long sucks because you can't sleep, obviously. If you want to feel like you're an Air Marshal, sit on a plane and stay awake for fucking 6 to 8 hours, at least, minimum 6 to 8 hours if you're flying cross country. Read a book. Like, I was drinking so much coffee and getting up and washing my face so much. Everybody else was sleeping. It just, that's the hard part of the job, is staying awake on the plane. But once you're off the plane, you're off duty. You fucking go check into your hotel, you go down, you have a beer. I wasn't even drinking that much then. I was just training. I was working on myself. I do a lot of touristy stuff whenever I'd go anywhere. I went to Alcatraz. I saw a lot of baseball games. Anywhere I was, I looked for the touristy stuff to do. So I always tried to have a good time, make the best of it. I really think I made the best of that job. Met a lot of great people. Felt like I was doing a service to the country. But when my time came to get on the fire department, I was more than ready to go. So anyway, that's it for the Federal Air Marshal. There's really not much to talk about. There was never any incidents. We had one time where a guy, we used to have Blackberries at the time. And me and my partner got a text that there was somebody on the watch list or on the no-fly list on our flight. They gave us his description, what seat he was in, and sure enough, he was there. But we didn't engage, we didn't encounter, we just watched him. How a guy that was on the no-fly list got on the fucking plane is beyond me. But at least we got the text, and at least we were on the plane. So all we did was we watched him, made sure that nothing happened. He didn't move. When we landed, we followed him. Port Authority met him at the gate and fucking took him to another room, and that was the last I heard of that. That was the only incident, wasn't even an incident, something that happened on a flight that I was ever involved in. Other than that, it was the most mundane, boring, unexcited fucking job there is, man. You just sit on a plane, watch movies, and read and stay awake. So fun once you got off the plane. Being on a plane, not so much. I believe that there was an incident where 2 air marshals shot a guy in the jetway somewhere. I can't remember, because he was saying that he had a bomb. Hey, he had a bomb. They took him out. That was that. I don't know if they got jammed up. I have no idea. I don't know anybody left. I don't think I know anybody left I know a couple. I still know a couple who is still active on the Air Marshals. But I don't know. That's it. That's really it for the Air Marshal story. Not much to talk about. It was only about a year and 3 months or so that I was an Air Marshal, a year and a half at the most. I can't remember exactly. But that's it. Pretty, met a lot of great people. Got trained by some really cool operators and stuff like that. Didn't go to the main academy, just went through a week. And then I got on the fire department. I felt like I did my service to the country. Nothing happened. I was actually on a flight. Excuse me. I was actually on a flight 1 year after 9/11. I was on 9/11 the next year, 9/11/02. I was on the flight to San Francisco out of Newark. That's the flight that I was on. That's the one that at that time, they hijacked and flew into the World Trade Center. So anyway, that was a little weird for me a year later, being on the flight, that the same flight that they were, or like the same time, the same destination that they were on. But other than that, just a pretty mundane job. But the operators now that are doing it, I believe, should be top notch. They're training after 20 years. They probably got it all down. Now I don't know what's going on with the job, or I've been out of the government for a long time. Anyway, that's my story. I'm over 30 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time. So enjoy the day. Beautiful sunny day. Tuesday. Today's Passover, so kids don't have school. And that's it. I want to tell you guys, thank you so much. Check out the links in my description for the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Check out friendsoffirefighters.org. Check out Tomahawk Strategic Solutions, Tomahawk Charitable Solutions. That's the charity organization of the parent company, Tomahawk Strategic Solutions. It's a military vet-owned company, and their charity supports vets in their time of need and first responders. And now I want to tell you about livelikechrisfoundation.org. That's from our cousin Chris, and it's a great foundation, so check that out. Also, if you have time, I was in a short film, independent film called No Will, written and produced by a New York City firefighter, starring a New York City firefighter, me, No Will. So check out No Will on YouTube. It's No Will Film on YouTube. They're all those links are in the description. Check them out. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Remember, it must be true if you heard it at the kitchen table. I'll see you at the big one.